So let's go to our next topic.
Yes.
Yeah, our next topic tonight. So this story was kind of all over social media a little bit, and you saw a lot of this last week. We were seeing a lot of NOAA cuts. There's been a lot of back and forth, but this was an interesting kind of development last week. The Department of Defense terminated a contract with NOAA to provide satellite data that we use quite a bit actually during hurricane season to see basically developing systems. And it's somewhat controversial because this wasn't really a budgetary cut thing. It really wasn't anything to do with DOGE or politically motivated. This had more to do with the fact that these satellites are going to be discontinued in the very near future. And the DoD, for whatever reason, even though they're still working, decided to terminate this contract early. And so this is just another one of those things, Tim, I think that could have an impact on the upcoming hurricane season. What are your thoughts about this, and of what you've read so far? What is your biggest concern with this lack of satellite data?
Yeah, it's certainly, whenever you get tools, you don't want to lose any of them, right? So kind of begs the question, what would replace it going forward, or if anything? To our viewers who might be, seeing this image on the screen, it might not look like a typical satellite that we would show you on air a lot of times. This is not actually showing you the clouds necessarily, but it's kind of more of an X-ray of the storm a little bit that kind of shows kind of that banding organization. When we talk about hurricanes, you can have eye walls, you can have a couple different eye walls actually, and sometimes the best way to kind of, cut through the noise is to look at one of these microwave images that kind of shows what's inside. So without that, we might be, left to guess a little bit more rather than have that precision view. So, Brad, when we were at AMS last week, was there anyone talking about what to do when these go away, or any other replacements, or that we're just kind of do without it?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing I heard was, because I think rapid intensification is where we're going to have a big problem with these satellites. Because, as you know, those microwave images, and you can really see the concentric eye walls and the bands. And one of the things, there are some other microwaves imagery from other satellites. They just don't cover the Earth as frequently as these other. Like you said, you're taking tools out, so you're getting less frequent updates. I guess the other thing that would help is if we could do more hurricane hunter flights, but we know some of those have been pulled back, especially on the NOAA side. So that would be one way to replace that data. But it definitely was a big talking point out at AMS. I think the biggest thing, and this is not going to be a political debate or argument, was just there's a lot of unknowns, Tim, of like what's going to be available and what's not. We honestly just don't know in some cases.
Sure. And it's, it's not unique to weather or anything. It's a lot of, segments of life. You hear about it on the terror front or anything else. People are adapting and focusing on the changes, and we don't really know where that's going to go or how many impacts there will be. But some uncertainty is there, and I don't think a lot of us are super comfortable with that going into the hurricane season. So we'll have to see, kind of how it works out over the next couple of months. Hopefully things mostly stay the same, but without some of those tools that we're used to, we might have to go about it in different ways.
Yeah, so on that kind of same vein, Tim, the NOAA budget was released, at least a preliminary budget. This is not a final draft, by the way. This is kind of what gets thrown out for next year. So there's a bunch of proposed cuts to NOAA next year, and a lot of them do end up impacting us because a lot of these centers for research are going to be impacted. So what you see on the screen is some of the cuts that, and this is complete cancellation, the coastal resiliency, navigation, ocean map and ecosystem services, coral reef conservation, ocean exploration, I'll spit it out, ocean acidification, observations, OAR and NOS, but in particular there was some tropical budget cuts to this as well, some of the research that goes into the Hurricane Center. And Tim, this is like something that has been going on, I feel like, for a long time. Since I remember the reason I'm in broadcast television right now is because when I was graduating from Ohio State, there was a hiring freeze in NOAA. I feel like every year there's something going on in NOAA because it's always weird to me that the Weather Service and NOAA is in the Department of Commerce, and when people want to make budget cuts, the Department of Commerce seems like a natural thing to cut, and not realizing all these departments are within the Department of Commerce.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And it's in the Department of Commerce because weather forecasting can have benefits to the economy, right? You have good weather forecasts, you can have a good supply chain, you can have good moving of goods and services, good safety, good all these other things. So maybe that's where it comes from, but that's interesting. I didn't know that's how you got into the field, but talking to a lot of younger meteorologists who I kind of mentor a little bit now, they're dealing with these right now. The recent grads, there's not really many opportunities to get in right now with a lot of cuts, and I guess that could be the same with a lot of federal jobs, but again, more news of fewer weather services rather than more. I did hear too, like if you saw the movie Twister, right? The National Severe Storms Laboratory out in Oklahoma, right? That's on the chopping block too, isn't it?
Yes, yeah, and that's the scary part, because some of these centers like NSSL and down in Miami, the hurricane research, this is where like our research and development into these models and forecasting techniques come from. This is how we've gotten so good at what we do, and we are the world leader in some of these instances in forecasting. So it'd be a shame to see this go away. My hope is that we've seen along the way that people will realize, hey, we need these things, because I think it's just a line item cut. Someone with a spreadsheet goes, we need to get rid of this thing, and down the road,
Sure.
people, local constituents will speak up and say, hey, these are things we actually do need. We can certainly find other locations to save money or be more efficient, and certainly there's a lot of things that could be more efficient. So we'll transition now.